Welcome to the Nerd Chatter podcast, where two nerds sit down and talk about some nerd stuff every week. This week we have San Diego Comic-Con, so a lot of news coming through. I'm joined by my good friend Garrett. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It's been a busy week. And as per usual, we like to start off the show with whatever free or heavily discounted games that we find throughout the week. And this week we only have one. From the Epic Games Store until July 28th, you can get World War I Tannenberg Eastern Front. It's a first-person World War I shooter, and free's a good price. And you might want to actually check that one out too. I mean, I don't think it's too expensive of a game. I think it's like $20 or $30, but it looked pretty good.
Nice. I'll have to give it a shot.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, we did have San Diego Comic-Con this week, so you can just imagine the amount of nerd news that's coming out from there. You know, we have things from Marvel, we have things from DC, we have Netflix announcements, we have just general Warner Brothers announcements, a lot of stuff on the docket here. So we are unfortunately going to have to ditch our typical structure for the show, which we would normally pick 2 or 3 different topics and talk about them extensively. But the list of things that we have here from San Diego Comic-Con up until today, which we're recording this on Sunday, so the con is actually going on as we speak. But the real thick content has been pretty much released already from the convention. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of work down the list. Like I mentioned, we got DC in here, Marvel, we got Disney Plus, we got Dungeons and Dragons, and Warner Brothers, and all this stuff. So what do you want to start off with, my friend?
I think we should just talk about the random things that we compiled, then we can get into the specifics for each platform.
Okay. So yeah, I do have this list up in front of me here, and we got them kind of categorized. So some of the random stuff that we have at the top of the list. We had I don't know if this was at the convention or if this was prior, but
I think it was prior
with the Animal Logic purchase by Netflix. They will be the ones in charge of presumably the Lego films from here on out, which will be interesting. The Lego films are beloved reimaginings of some of the more popular franchises out there. How do you feel about that? Netflix and the track record.
Netflix has definitely gone downhill recently with a lot of the things that they're doing. So I am very mixed feelings about that. I think the Lego movies have been pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
The Lego Batman movie was pretty great. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned, especially since Death Note and all these other I haven't seen the Resident Evil, but I'm hearing some pretty horrible things about it. But I don't know. Maybe I'll hop in there and see what they did with that. But there's a lot of things that Netflix has kind of squandered over the last few years, and it is a bit concerning to see them pick up the Lego studio. So I guess we'll see. I should point out last week we had some audio issues using some new methods of recording remotely, and you may hear some background noises, or you may hear some clicking or searching or whatever. It's just us doing what we do while we're recording. It's just part of the process. Over time, we'll get better equipment and better methods of recording, but at the very least, I believe we resolved our little hiccup issue in the audio. But you might have a little more sensitive vocals, I guess. So yeah, anyways, back to it. We got Disney Plus just before the convention. Was it Friday? I think it was Saturday. No, Friday.
They announced it on, I want to say it was early, like midweek, so like Wednesday. But Friday, I'll let you continue. That's when it dropped.
I think it was like one day. Like they announced it the day before, and then the next day they dropped it. So I think Thursday, which was the first day of the convention, they announced Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and Logan would be coming to Disney Plus, which, me and my childlike anticipation of X-Men, this was like red alert. We're getting an X-Men announcement. We're getting some X-Men. They're moving the mutants to Disney Plus, but from this bit of information, we just got Deadpool, the Deadpool films, and Logan put on Disney Plus, but also opening the door for rated R films, and which they have been experimenting with for months now, with the kind of the agreement that you have to take, or the disclosure or what have you, when you're viewing mature content.
Yeah, well, didn't they also release the TVMA stuff from Netflix on Disney Plus a couple months ago now?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Net. I know Netflix is crazy, but Disney Plus, I know they have Marvel Zombies coming up, which will be a TVMA rating. So Disney Plus will also be kind of gravitating towards the more mature content for their streaming
Well,
content.
so I'm talking about like the Marvel Netflix stuff. So like Luke Cage and the
Yeah,
Defenders.
I
Didn't that get released on Disney Plus not too long ago? And those are all TVMA.
I think they experimented with bringing some of that Netflix content over, but they didn't bring like Punisher, which is your real TVMA. I'm not sure if like Iron Fist and I mean maybe Daredevil. It's a bit gory at times. But real
They do
MA.
have TVMA ratings, but you're right, they're not Punisher.
Punisher is actual MA. That's the one I think they're more worried about is like how do you get that Deadpool and stuff into the realm. Which
I
they're
don't
doing.
think they're worried about that anymore.
Yeah, I think they can go with it. I think they've warned people enough with the MA ratings and the rated R content coming to Disney Plus. Which I mean, if you want it to be a full blown platform, you have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on down here, we got John Wick 4. Did you see that trailer?
I did not see the trailer. To be honest, I haven't seen the other John Wick movies, so I'm gonna have to dive into that sometime.
We do see the German Shepherds back, from what I believe, or what I saw, I believe, which would mean who is that? That's Halle Berry. Halle Berry plays the side character in the last film, if I'm not mistaken. She has the two dogs. There's a lot of bow and arrow play going on. Your typical hand-to-hand combat and that type of thing, fighting in the streets. Some really good choreography, just pretty much what you would expect from a John Wick film. I mean, it looks good. I mean, I think those films are just kind of like what you expect from them, and they deliver well.
Yeah.
So next on the list here, we got Crypto. Crypto is Superman's dog from the DC comic books. All around in DC, but adorable little dog was shown off for the Titans series. I believe it was on HBO Max.
That would make sense if it was on HBO Max, because
Yeah.
that's where a lot of the other DC stuff is getting released.
Yeah, so that's where Titans. I know Titans is ongoing, and it's been somewhere. So I haven't seen it. So I did see the announcement though of Crypto, and Crypto is kind of a niche character in DC, and I forget the Batman's dog. Batman has a dog as well, and they have like a cartoon, I think, also ongoing. So a live action version, and he looks like a very good boy. So always nice. What about the next one?
Yeah, so the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves trailer came out, and it definitely shows Chris Pine as a bard. I mean, we talked about this earlier. I don't know how they got Chris Pine other than a buttload of money to play this character, but it's funny. So,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was giving off like really heavy. I mean, original Dungeons and Dragons vibes. To be honest, like I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. I've seen snippets of it, but it really kind of felt like these characters were out of place. Like they were just in costumes, cosplaying, and kind of reenacting. Chris Pine sticks out like a sore thumb for some reason. Just even the way he's like dressed just feels a little bit too out of place. That's my general concern with it. And you got like nice CGI, you got dragons, you got the fighting and stuff like that, and it's a bit goofy. And I know Dungeons and Dragons is really what people make of it, but I don't know. I was kind of expecting it to be more of like a Two Towers type of film, from like the Lord of the Rings type of vibe, more dark, more Dungeons and Dragons. Because when I think of, I mean, I'm not an avid player of Dungeons and Dragons, but when I do get exposed to it, it feels very gritty and very like lived in, and the vibe of the film just didn't kind of give it off when I saw the trailer. But Chris Pine being a little goofy, I mean, that might be just kind of played up for the trailers. Maybe maybe the film will be different. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I just know that when my wife's family plays D&D, it's always pretty silly.
Yeah.
They all have their voices and that they do for their characters and stuff. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
And again, that's
it
really
might
what
be
you make it.
exactly.
Yeah, I was just hoping like with that type of imagery, that you can get like really cool, gritty. It's like if they were to make a Skyrim movie, you wouldn't want that to be goofy at all, right? Like that's kind of like how my mind was with D&D. It was always kind of like the more hardcore and almost like Diablo in my mind. But again, it's kind of left up to any person's interpretation. Next up for the WWE fans out there, Vince McMahon retires. I mean, dude's like 80 years old or something like that. You know, he was.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, now given there's a lot of there's a lot of drama around Vince McMahon and just the way that he's treated the wrestlers, actors over the years, and just the overall establishment of how that industry operates and how they treat people and the expectations and just kind of how that it does have like a Hollywood type of angle in terms of like exposure and exposure time, you know, and what they can bring to the table and is interesting. So it's also going to be interesting to see kind of like how wrestling, I mean, I haven't watched wrestling in like 20 years, but you know, it'll be interesting to kind of see where it goes and if it restructures. And I've seen some footage of other, you know, wrestling organizations that pretty laughable. Some of the acting that's going on there. So, I mean, you know, and WWE has delivered some fine actors over the years too. You know, what do we got? We got John Cena. We got
and Dwayne Johnson.
We got Batista, right?
Yep.
So I mean, Hulk Hogan. You got, I mean, not a great actor, but you know what I mean. It they are actors.
Great personalities.
Yeah, good people. Sometimes, unless they're doing not so good things like a lot of them do. So it is nice because I mean you do have an outlet for those types of actors to expand and get into the different parts of the industry. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where it goes. You know, what about this next one? Did you even like any of that original stuff?
Yes. So Netflix announced the first of their series of live films for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
The real Avatar.
Yes, the real Avatar. I adore Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Good cartoon.
Yeah, and I didn't discover it until I was an adult, and I was like, "What did I miss as a kid?" Like,
yeah. No, I watched it as a kid. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I have it on Blu-ray, the whole set on Blu-ray. I really like it, but this first movie is gonna focus on Aang and company, so that will be nice to see. I don't know how in depth they're gonna get, so we'll see. But
I mean, we're talking about young adults. We're talking about YA Yang. You know, we're not talking about the age that they were in the cartoons or the old film by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like
We'll see.
It was like Rugrats being rebooted when they were like teenagers and stuff, and it was just weird. It's like I don't know about this. What is this? Yeah, me too. I'm like Avatar is like, you know, it's your Americanized anime. You know what I mean? It's still very Americanized. I don't know where it originates. I don't know if it's an American product or if it was.
It is.
It is. Kind of feels like it, you know.
It's Nickelodeon produced it originally. Dave Filoni, who we love and adore, actually got his start. I don't know if it was his start, but he worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender before he moved over to Star Wars.
I mean, it's good storytelling. You know, there's a world there that you kind of feel is a little bit more lived in and fleshed out than some of the other properties that you get, you know. So
100%.
I always liked Avatar. I really just did not like that movie that came out, the M. Night film.
I never saw it, and I don't plan on ever seeing it.
It's pretty bad. Just the kid acting in it is pretty atrocious, and the abundant CGI is very, you know, very obvious CGI. So
Yep.
So yeah.
Let me cover one of the next ones. This is Marvel related, but Marvel adjacent. So a company, I can't remember what the company is called, but they at San Diego Comic-Con they released a Infinity Stone collection of rare gems that include 150 carats of these different stones that have the Infinity Stones and an Infinity Gauntlet. It will set you back a cool $25 million. So start saving up for that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. The gems look gorgeous, but at the same time, they don't tell you what the gems are. You know, like obviously they're different. They're different stones, and It's not like the green that's there is emerald. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about in regards to the actual gems, like what they are and how expensive they are, and that type of thing. They just kind of showed off beautiful pictures, and then kind of a cheap looking Infinity Gauntlet. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it looked as screen worthy. It would have been like, it kind of looks like it's made out of rubber.
It looks like a matte plastic
Mm-hmm.
that like they just painted over with like a matte gold color. It looks kind of chimp like I don't
It
know,
looks
not
good,
cheap.
but yeah, it does look chintzy a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like the it doesn't live up to the price tag essentially. Like, I'm thinking they could have gone with some gold plating at the very least. Um,
Yeah. That's
you
kind
know,
of when I mean, I
100%
didn't.
movie accurate would be nice.
Well, that would have been great. But when I saw the announcement, all I saw were the stones, and it wasn't until we talked earlier that I saw the pictures of the actual gauntlet, and I was like, oh,
Mm.
that's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, if you're like stupid rich, but how stupid rich do you have to be to dump $25 million or whatever on just a shelf piece? Like, that's stupid. Like, that's
Yeah.
just actually stupid. it's not.
Yeah.
That's not like, oh, I'm so rich I can burn. It's like, even burning that money if you had billions of dollars is stupid because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
However, those gems look gorgeous, and like I said earlier, it's like if I could find fake ones, I'd be set, just because they look cool, like laid out in like a box or something on a shelf.
Telling you, it's gonna pop up on Wish or on Etsy in a year from now.
Wish. Oh yeah. No Star Wars news. How do you feel about that? You got the Grogu animatronic and some toys that made
I mean,
appearance, costumes.
I didn't expect any Star Wars news. If anything, I mean, we could have got like some type of animation news, but I'm expecting a lot of Star Wars news at um, D23 in September. So I'm guessing we're going to get some more announcements, and I mean, we're obviously going to get more Marvel announcements from that as well. There definitely looks like they're hiding some of the things that
Hmm.
is on the docket, so we'll talk about that later.
I guess I didn't dive into whether or not there was extensive like Marvel news in regards to Star Wars comic books. This is the venue that you would expect them to kind of blow it out in regards to announcing things about their comic series, which is ongoing, right? Like, that's still
Yeah,
very much active.
very much active. I mean, they have two or three comics that get released a month right now.
Hmm.
I I have not seen anything, but at least in years previous, it has been released at D23 or just ongoing through the year. I don't think they try to make it that big of a deal out of the comics for Star Wars. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, maybe I just didn't look deep enough, but from what I saw at the Star Wars display, they had Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Andor, and Obi-Wan costumes laid out for you to kind of look at. And I kind of joked on Twitter, it's like, those are the real stars of the convention. When you get to see the actual costumes there right in front of you, just separated by a piece of glass. Sometimes not even a piece of glass, just a rope, and you're 3 or 4 feet away from the Mandalorian outfit. In full glory. Just beautiful and shiny, just the way
yeah,
it was when it was worn on set. And it's like, you don't get that opportunity unless you go to these conventions. I wrote a story about watching these films at the ArcLight in Hollywood, and they would sometimes move these costumes to the lobbies for people that went and saw like the advanced screenings and stuff like that. So, always been my favorite thing, and I truly love seeing like Mando's outfit just laid out on a mannequin. Same thing with Boba Fett's outfit was there too. It looked pretty cool. Um, and then yeah, Marvel had their own, and I'm sure DC did. I just didn't see any pictures, but
yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about the Grogu animatronic that was there.
Oh, yeah, you like that?
Yeah, just waving to people, interacting with people. They
Yeah.
must have had like some of the animatronic artists there, like with their little remote control, like hiding in the background somewhere, because like Grogu was responding to people and not just like
I
on a
was
loop of some
looking.
sort.
I was looking to see if it was on a loop, and I'm gonna say like 60-40. I believe it's on a loop, and it was just coincidence that he would look up at people and stuff like that, because it just kind of seemed like it might be randomized, but it kind of seemed like it was just all over the place, making facial expressions and stuff like that, just kind of like showing it off.
I I, I don't know. I feel like there was like some type of animatronic artist, chilling behind a
Maybe.
camera or somewhere, or just somewhere. So like he was interacting, or Grogu was interacting. But regardless, it was really cool just
Yeah.
to see the little videos of that.
I mean, we're not talking like film accurate, but we're talking pretty close. Like
Yeah,
Disneyland worthy for sure. 100% Disneyland worthy. A little stiff. You know, there's a reason why Grogu himself is $5 million. The animatronics and the face is it needed to be an actor, so they made it that way.
yeah.
This one had eye movement, had eyeball movement, eyebrows, cheeks, head movement, kind of lean forward and back a little bit. It might have just been the weight of the animatronics, but it looked real. It looked like it was there, sitting around, moving around, and stuff like that. So, good stuff. Not bad, not bad. I'm saying that one was probably only like 2 million, 2.5
Yeah.
million. So, any other tidbits that you ran across that aren't related to DC and Marvel? I mean, we don't want to make it seem like nothing but Marvel and DC at Comic Con. There's quite a bit, but really,
I
when
mean,
it came to the nerd dump, these two had the most.
there was other things out there, but nothing of great note for me, at least.
Yeah.
I did see some really random stuff. Like there's a Batman show where they're cars. I think
Oh
if I saw
no,
that right.
I didn't see that.
Like, yeah, I immediately brushed that aside. Was like, get that out of
I
my
think I
brain.
did see that actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
that's going to be coming for kids, and
we do have a
I don't know.
couple. I don't know why it's not updated on this. I must have it on a different tab or something. But we had the Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot it. No, did we talk about that already?
No, we talked about that prior.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know why it's on my list. I added it to my list, but what was that? That was the Rings of Power, right? The Amazon
yeah,
series.
yeah.
I saw the. Did you see the trailer for it?
I did not, but I've been paying semi close attention to it because I know my wife and is going to be really interested in that when that comes out.
Yeah.
Um, so
I've been
I've just been watching it
I
here
think
and
it was
there.
like middle school, high school when those films came out, and getting my mom to take me to a 3 hour film was like pulling teeth. I think she fell asleep in all of them. Um, I've rewatched the films, but to be honest, they're a little a little snoozy, get a little boring at times. What's cool is super cool, and the world that's built there is super cool. Tolkien, the way he writes, the way he world builds is super cool. So like, it's no shade being tossed, but they can get a little droll at times, especially with like Samwise and that kind of discourse between him and the other characters and stuff can get really like preachy and boring. Um,
Don't tell my wife that.
Everybody loves
Samwise is her
Samwise.
favorite character.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I know, but in the books, it's it's very dramatic, and they're everybody read the books as kids. I read the Hobbit book. However, when the Hobbit films came out, I like despised them. We're talking about like some really goofy character design and dialogue. It might just be because just how they've decided to portray like the dwarves and stuff like that in this world. And that really is kind of the only thing that takes me out of it with this new trailer is that it looks more like the caliber of the films in terms of the storytelling and the world building and the imagery. However, the dwarves still kind of have that like Snow White type of
yeah.
vibe to them, where it's just like
One interesting tidbit about the dwarfs that I did see, can't remember if it was in a tweet or on an update, but one of the producers or the directors, I can't remember, for Rings of Power said that the female dwarfs in the show will have beards.
good, as they should.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you have Gimli, right? Gimli is the dwarf from the original films.
Yeah.
He goes hard, dude. He looks like he's a badass. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of how I envisioned all of them. The particular character design, but at the same time, like he looked like he was rough and tough, and he would get down. And then here comes the Hobbit, and these characters are like slapsticky, goofy, and it's like, oh no. So I can't really judge it based on like the Hobbit and stuff like that came after that, but I really didn't like the vibe that it was giving off, and I skipped on those. However, I'd mentioned to you off podcasts is I've been watching Nerd of the Rings. If anybody wants a good thorough background kind of rundown of all of Tolkien's property. Nerd of the Rings on YouTube is a good source. But I've been getting rundowns of the history of Sauron and these different lands and the wars and the different ages and stuff like that and what happened and kind of the methods of corruption and stuff like that. And then it's kind of got me hyped. And then when I saw that trailer, it's like, oh, okay, so this might actually be watchable. So I'm actually looking forward to that one quite a bit.
Yeah. Before we move on to DC and Marvel and everything to go with that, there was some Star Trek stuff that dropped at Comic-Con, and it's with Paramount Plus specifically. Picard Season 3 teaser was released. Have you seen Picard at all?
No. I mean, I'm not a big Star Trek fan. However,
Okay.
I'm a big Red Letter Media fan, so I've watched them critique and talk about the series extensively.
That's fair. Anyways, a lot of characters from the Next Generation were in the teaser, and I gotta say that Worf is looking
Worf.
good in that.
With his gray eyebrows and beard.
Yeah. It's said that this next season will act essentially as one Next Generation movie. So I don't know how I feel about that, but it will have the Picard team from season 2 interacting pretty intensively with the Next Generation team. So like Deanna Troi, Worf, Doctor. Oh my gosh, what's her name? I can't remember the doctor's name, but the doctor, Riker.
Halsey?
No,
Am I thinking of the wrong one? I don't know.
Yeah.
Regardless, it sounds like
Dr.
Member
Halsey's Halo. What are you talking about?
It's it just sounds like overload. To be honest, it sounds like member berry overload.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm afraid of. However, I anything with Riker and Worf, I'm sold, so I will be watching it. They also released a trailer for the Lower Decks, which is an animated series, but it's an animated series for adults. So that was I actually just started watching that, and I've watched the first 2 seasons. So I mean, that's all that's out, and it was pretty fun. So that will be good to watch when it comes out. Then they did in their Star Trek panel, they said that the Strange New World Season 2 will feature a live action and animation crossover event with the Lower Decks.
Oh,
So
no.
that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah.
What is Hollywood doing? Hollywood is just so manic. They're just all over the place. No idea. Anything and everything. Just make it all. Throw it at the wall. See what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that Star Trek. I don't know. They've said this about Star Wars, and I can't remember if George Lucas said this, but Star Wars doesn't take itself too seriously. At least, like, good Star Wars doesn't. And I know Taika Waititi said that, and has like echoed that sentiment. And I feel like that this is like the first time that Star Trek is really trying to not take itself too seriously. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with that. So we'll see.
I don't know. To me, Star Trek has always seemed like the topics they take very seriously. Like
Exactly.
They show the topics the utmost respect, whether it be, in a roundabout way addressing racism or sexism or just common paradigms in society and other issues, political issues and war and things like that. They take it seriously. However, I mean, I don't know. I always thought like Star Trek took itself seriously, but and like demanded respect. Like
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, Star Wars doesn't try to take itself too seriously. At least that's been the predominant thing. But with Star Trek, I feel like it's always taken itself very seriously. And I feel like this is a good opportunity with the Strange New Worlds and the Lower Decks to, like, take a chill for an episode or 2 or whatever they end up doing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. They can really go too far, though.
Oh, they could, and I'm
very easily destroyed.
That's what I'm afraid of. But I think they can do a good job in those parameters of bringing some animation characters into live action and some live action characters into animation and like having that crossover event. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm I'm intrigued.
We're talking about Star Trek Roger Rabbit, right?
I don't think it will be like that.
Okay, all right.
I think that there will be live action characters that sound the same, look generally the same from animation that get pulled into live action. They just have a real person. If they do like a Roger Rabbit scenario, I will not be pleased.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even comprehend as to like the route in which they would take to deliver something like that, like the headspace
Yeah.
that they're in. So I guess we'll see. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we can move on to Marvel and DC. Is there anything else that we got to skim over?
The
Paramount
Disney Plus, they did give a teaser trailer for the National Treasure Disney Plus show.
Mm.
So that's just on the horizon. I can't remember if they gave a release date for that, but looks intriguing. It's definitely a little bit more fresh. Doesn't have the Nick Cage character, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, being a series, he may make an appearance. We'll see.
Oh, I'm for sure he'll make an appearance, but I want to keep him separate a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to like DC. Before I get going, I have my degenerate neighbors directly above me making loud noises and pounding on the floor like primates. So I do apologize if that gets picked up. I can only.
I have
complain so
not
much.
heard it
I
so
mean,
far.
the audio will most likely pick it up, but so yeah, if it happens, I do apologize. We're just dealing with technical issues left and right here, I guess. But for DC, I mean, you're not a huge DC fan, so we'll kind of just run through here.
I am a Shazam fan.
You like Shazam, and they did announce Fury of the Gods. You had
Well,
the
it's already been
announcement,
announced, but they dropped the
you have
trailer for it.
trailer, and you have the panel. And the general premise of that film is him struggling with age, and for anybody that doesn't know, with the character, I want to say Captain Marvel, but the character Shazam, is that he doesn't turn into a different person. He turns into the adult version of himself. So in comic books like Kingdom Come, he's aged out. So really, when he goes into his superhero mode, he just changes costumes. Like in that comic series, he looks like Shazam walking around, but he's really not. He's not in that mode. He just looks like him because that's his older version. So this film is probably going to talk a little bit about that, about him aging. I know it has like loose ties to the DCEU and mentioning of like him living up to expectations that are set by these other heroes like Superman and Batman and stuff like that. Did you see this trailer?
I haven't yet. There's just so much that came out with Comic-Con that
How do you be a
I'm in a
Shazam
flood.
fan and not even watch the
Hey,
Shazam trailer? We're
I've been
recording a
trying to get
podcast
brush up.
here.
I've been trying to brush up on everything else, man. Give me a break. Come on.
Jeez.
Come on.
Is there anything on this list that you want me to mark that you did watch? But,
I don't appreciate that.
Black Adam. Did you see Black Adam?
No.
Oh my goodness! All right, well, all right. So I'll go down it. I mean, the footage, it does have throwback footage of Flash, Superman, Batman, Aquaman. I think I saw Wonder Woman in there, but really they are snippets from other films, and it's him sitting there. It's like an internal monologue. He might be talking to somebody, but he is talking about him aging and being kind of a goofball and not comparing to these other heroes. And then you do have the appearance of like the Shazam family or whatever they're calling him now. And from what I hear, those characters are just like now established superheroes in the world. All of that taking place between the throwaway scene at the end of the film and the new film. I guess these other characters are going to kind of make their mark in the DCEU, and the amount of heroes out there in the DCEU is going to like double just overnight. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. I mean, it definitely felt like the original film when you watch the trailer. It has that vibe. But you know, the first one had it going for it. The fact that, you know, it was the first film that was kind of breaking the pattern of the DCEU and the seriousness that they were taking with the whole Snyderverse and them trying to adapt that vibe. So we'll see. Will it land again? Hopefully it does, because DC needs some wins for sure. Aside from, I mean, the Black Adam trailer and panel took place too, and it's very apparent that that The Rock is super enthusiastic about it. You know, did you see any of the stuff with him like on stage and stuff like that?
No, I did hear that he made an appearance with his full costume,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see. I saw it, but I think what it was is kind of goofy. But like he was on a platform that got raised up, and the platform was probably smaller than his frame because he's gigantic. So they had like this like stand, like kind of looked like he was like an action figure with it kind of going up his butt, and then like a hoop that went around like his thighs to hold him from like falling. So I mean, it raised him, and the platform was dark enough to where you really couldn't see it. And then behind him was a projection of like lightning and stuff, and he was in the full blown Black Adam outfit, which is like skin tight. So it probably took him a half hour to get out of it, but um, he's sitting up there floating and electricity behind him and stuff like that. So it looked cool, aside from this big chintzy like hoop around his thighs that were like padded and stuff. And it's always nice. You see it, and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. But when you're there in person, it could go either way. It could be like super corny, like super 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 corny, seeing these characters like in their costume or doing impersonations of their own characters, what have you. Or it can be like dope. And like this one, it was kind of cool because the costume was like legit, and it's The Rock, so it's like whatever. But it was borderline corny. I think with that film they handed out like lanyards with something on it that he activated at one point, and it did something. I don't know. I didn't really look into what exactly the lanyard things that they handed everybody, but another cool thing about Hall H and just Comic Con in general, when you're in those environments, they give you just like free swag, and like it's part of the show. So they'll give you like lanyards with you know automated badges on them that respond to things on the floor and stuff like that. So probably going for, I don't know, $100, $200 on eBay already, right? You said there was a hat from the convention that was,
Yeah, the Marvel hat.
yeah, the Marvel hat's already being sold for like 150 bucks, something like that.
Well, it's bidding at $102 the last time I checked, with like 49 bids.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
A couple days left.
and that should be noted when it comes to San Diego Comic Con. You'll see them when you're at your local comic book shops, or if you're at your nerd swap meets and stuff like that, like Frankenson's down in California. You'll see San Diego Comic Con 2022 edition, and it's like a limited edition, only could be purchased Funko Pop of an all purple Iron Man or something, and it's like they have that. There's so much San Diego Comic Con exclusive stuff that it's like everywhere, and people will pay top dollar for it, like $150 for like literally the cheapest hat that you could possibly imagine. Like
The hat looks like it was a $2 like hat.
They're the floppy hats. They're
Yeah.
not even snapbacks too. It's the one with like the adjustable strap. Pretty bad. But that's the stuff you cherish. My badges back home, I want to get them back up here into Washington, but I have them in boxes back home. I think I have 2 of them left. I don't know where the rest went, but I have my press badges, and all along the lanyard, all the way around the neck, is just different buttons and pins and stuff that I picked up. So it's like it's like I'm holding up like a trophy of all this like free swag that I collected at those things. So that type of stuff probably goes for like buku bucks right now. Like original material from the 2006 Comic-Con, the year they announced the MCU. Here's a Marvel pin from that year. Probably go for like $100. But I digress. That's just kind of where they're at with that type of stuff. So, kind of going on down. I'm not huge into the animation. However, I will give it to DC. DC does super, super, super good animation. Except for the Killing Joke, I really didn't care for that animation. I thought it was hideous. But a lot of times they hit. Those are really good animated films. Like the Red Hood stuff and all that, even going back to the 90s with like the animated film, right? So good stuff. What you have here, and I don't know what this is, RYBY Justice League. It says RYBYX Justice League, like 2 mashups. So it looks like an animated film for whatever that property is. You got Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham. That one is going to be a movie. Not too much in terms of imagery that you see from the actual footage, but like you get the posters and stuff like that, looking pretty cool. And then something I found interesting was that they listed a couple of the films, and people out there might know, but these last two are listed as DC Universe movies. They are animated. The first one is Legion of Superheroes and Justice League Warworld. So I'm not 100% sure on what they mean by DC Universe movie, as in, are they just longer movies compared to like Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham, since that's a movie as well, it's just not listed? Or does it mean that these films are canon in the sense of the DC Universe, films? So I don't know, but you did have a handful of nice, juicy DC animations coming out in just 2023 alone. So, did you see the whole Henry Cavill rumor mill?
You talked about it, and then I looked it up, and it's honestly quite silly.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, so I won't get too much into it, but I wrote about it a little bit on our website at nerdchatter.com. But it's really just a matter of how information is transmitted like a disease on Twitter. Like, false news is so easily dispersed. Discussing Films is a Twitter account that has fairly decent track record with releasing information and rumors and stuff like that. However, you have a lot of mimicking, profiles, impersonating profiles of discussing movies or discussing film or whatever, and there's 3 S's or 2 U's or, that type of thing. And they like to bleed out stupid articles, like completely stupid articles. A lot of these are responsible for just the minor outrages that pop up in these fandom communities. You can trace them back to these kind of, I don't want to say, like faux accounts. They're really just impersonating trolls. But this one is a little bit more tricky because the original report came from Deadline Hollywood. Deadline Hollywood is kind of like it's a hack journalism website. They've been around for a while. However, they have like a B- accuracy rate for reporting. They're a pretty half-assed journalism outlet, right? So a lot of these rumors have been coming from Deadline, which gets picked up by these Twitter accounts who are looking for any reason to post these stories. And the one that got dropped by Deadline was that Henry Cavill was rumored to be making an appearance at San Diego Comic-Con 2022 to announce a new DC Superman film, possibly within the realm of Zack Snyder's DCEU. So naturally, this being, what pretty much every DCEU fan has been waiting for, the internet just exploded. My issue with it is that expectations rise, and then you get like the toxicity level rise, and then naturally that was not going to happen. You had Jim Lee the day before the DC panel on Friday, who, I don't know if you know who Jim Lee is. Jim Lee is the CCO of DC. He came from, I think what he did, he worked on Marvel, and due to creative differences left. I think he worked with Todd McFarlane on McFarlane Comics for a while, and was kind of responsible for the whole rejuvenation of Marvel Comics in the 90s. And then you had him move on over to DC and just kind of work his way through the ranks. And he is the guy where it's like he will draw Batman like 500 times signing autographs, because that's what he does. He streams on Twitch. He has a YouTube channel. He is like corporate, like 100% corporate. However, he is also like the top artist for DC. So it's like you can watch him make beautiful, beautiful artwork, but at the same time, he's plugged into everything that's going on with DC, because he's not just an artist, he's the CCO. So he made an announcement on Friday that Snyder is like no more, that they don't have plans on living out anything else in that world and that storyline, and that they're kind of moving on. So naturally, it was like disheartening. I did find some minor enjoyment out of hearing, all the belly aching afterwards, because it was.
Are you sure it was minor?
It was. I was pretty gleeful, but really, we're talking about like expectations that were fabricated out of thin air, and then like the weight of those expectations put on a studio that had no intentions of even mentioning anything like that. and they have to live with that. That's the roller coaster that these fandoms are putting themselves through. It's like, just let the information come out and wait. Like, back up your sources and make sure that you're not getting duped, because it's way too easy to get duped. And the more you get duped on the internet, the stupider you look. You don't want to look stupid, do you? So that's my point. Is they need to chill on the whole Henry Cavill, Snyder, Ben Affleck, and all that stuff. The way that it seems is WB wanted to ditch Snyder years ago. They caved into the fans who, I mean, in their most recent announcement, they're kind of talking about, this online attack, forcing of I don't want to, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of forcing WB to release the Snyder cut, which was a better cut. But it kind of seems like they did that begrudgingly. Like, they didn't really have an interest in humoring this Snyderverse anymore. But they did it for the extra cash, and they did it to hopefully get people to chill out and leave them alone so that they can move on. Because as of right now, you got WB, who is now pigeonholed by a fandom who demands that the only content be made by somebody that they don't want to work with anymore. And, like, they want to work with them, but not in the sense like they want to give him the reins, because it pissed off way too many people. And I think that they want to cut their losses because they know that there are more people out there that want to love the products compared to the people that love what's there now and are defending it, like, rigorously. So I think that's where WB is, and they're trying so hard. I think, honestly, somebody called or texted Jim while he was there, because he was doing a panel where he was drawing Joker up on stage like he always does. I got his autograph too. That's actually when I left the Marvel booth in 2006, and I had the opportunity to go and meet Jon Favreau and pick up that first Iron Man poster and have it signed by him and Kevin Feige. I chose not to wait in the line, and I went over and I waited in Jim Lee's line, and I got his autograph. So, I mean, that's like, he's always been there. That's what he does. He sits there and draws, and he talks DC shit, which you can get a plug on some info if you watch his streams. I think it's twitch.tv, Jim Lee. But yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody said, hey, there's a lot of, like, talk about Henry Cavill expected to be there. We're going to need you to mention something to, like, prime it, so that people aren't too crazy when they find out. So I honestly think that somebody at, like, the corporate level, like, texted him and was like, hey, you need to leak some info. So that's why he said it, because it kind of seemed like out of nowhere. He just like, yeah, oh, and about this, So I think they're trying to do some damage control, and that's kind of where that whole thing was. But yeah, the whole rumor mill was just absurd, because I'll try to explain it. Deadline releases the rumor, no credibility whatsoever. It's just like complete hearsay type thing, right? Then Discussing Films picks it up and says, rumor has it Henry Cavill to appear at San Diego Comic-Con, and then DC blah blah blah. And then you have the minions spread and just blow it out, right? So you got the quote retweets of Henry Cavill's gonna be at Comic-Con, confirmed, and these aren't sources. These are just thousands of people or hundreds of people that are posting this comment to thousands of people that are seeing it and thinking of it as truth. So they go and report, and it just spreads and spreads. You know how this works. It spreads.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, Discussing Films comes back a couple hours later and says, reports have it, conflicting with previous rumors, that Henry Cavill is in Europe recording or filming episode of Witcher and will not be at Comic-Con. However, that's not how this works. It was already out there, and the expectations were set. So because the expectations were set, and that's the information that people wanted, they ignored the fact that they had just gotten confirmation that he wasn't going to be there. They ignored it, and they allowed it to go on. So regardless of it being refuted, I forget what it's like, Variety or something like that. We're talking Variety level reporting. They pick up the story, and they start commenting on the fandom discussing this rumor, which then circles back around with Discussing Films retweeting that article from Variety, quoting their original rumor, and then using Variety or whatever the source was as their official source for the claim to begin with, or something like that. It's like, it is insane how this whole thing was going. It was just like folding on itself, and all it did was nothing. It did absolutely nothing but just piss off a bunch of DC fanboys who were like eager to hear something about Snyder. And that's just not cool. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
and I think we need to make a distinction between DC fanboys and Snyder fanboys.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's a given by this point, and because
I just want to make sure
yeah,
it's clear.
I mean, you have no definite opinion about those two fandoms. I'm sure I do. I take them fairly personally, these characters, and to see kind of the progression of what we could be getting to with these films. We're getting left in the dust as DC fans because they're clasping on to this Snyder concept, and I don't want it. I want them to progress. Like I want more Superman. I want different Superman. That type of thing. Yada yada yada.
And I think they're going to get to that point, and I think they're taking the steps now to get there. It's just going to take some time now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like you have this dead weight. You got the ball and chain hanging on the ankle. WB is trying to pull away, and the ball is pulling back. So I think we're at that precipice of it's got to go one way or the other, and I don't think they're going to go pandering with the Snyder fans. And I do truly mean that they're Snyder fans. If you're willing to say, what is it, Army of the Dead? I think it was the Zack Snyder film. Like, it's like fine, but it's like it's not great. It's not a great film at all. But the way that people talk about it, it's like the greatest zombie movie ever made. And like, it's like, bro, leave Romero's name out of your mouth. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. But they have the goal to say stuff like that, and it just angers me personally because it's undeniably untrue what they say about his films, and it's like, okay, we're past the point of just liking it. Now we're kind of like in delusion territory, and it's affecting me. You know what I mean? Like, now I got a problem with it. I'm not going to just sit back and be cool with it. So, we'll see. But that's kind of what I'm talking about is the Snyder fans. The DC fans are the ones that gobble it all up. They love the comics. They know the comics are better than Marvel. It's just anybody who's anybody knows that DC does comics better than Marvel. This is how it is. Marvel does films better because they started it. They started the method. Animated films, DC does way better. Kind of on the fence about DC and Marvel video games, but DC does video games better. Arkham Knight is a damn fine game, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, I think it is, or just those games are fantastic, So they can both share the same space. However, when you have somebody coming, people coming in, and it's like, no, like we want it our way with our director over here, and if you don't have it our way, then we don't want your content at all. Period. Like, that's not a DC fan. Like, that's not a DC fan, Like, if you're willing to say, like, oh, if Zack Snyder doesn't make the next Superman movie, I'm not watching, then it's like, then you're not a DC fan. Period. There's no way you can say that,
Yeah.
So that's what I'm referring to in terms of Snyder fans, the people that have the goal to make statements like that. What else we got here? Oh, Zack Snyder. Speaking of him, we got a little cameo coming up this fall on Cartoon Network in Teen Titans Go. I don't know if you saw that. A cartoon version of Zack Snyder, probably making some quippy jokes about the DCEU or yada yada yada. It might even be some type of like throwaway line that maybe talks about different, Earths, and that his Earth is different or whatever. Maybe they're separating, maybe they're starting to like differentiate the Earths and stuff like that. Who knows? I don't know. However, I did see that and it looked pretty funny. And the last bit is Netflix series, which is interesting. Thought it would be HBO, but Sandman is a comic book. It is published by DC. He has very unique powers, and it's very mystical, and he has a gas mask and stuff like that. From what I saw of the show, it looks really good. It's non-DCEU canon, I believe. And like I said, it's not going to be on HBO Max. It's going to be on Netflix. So it'll be interesting to see that one. You might actually like that one too. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for DC. I'm sure there's other things that got released, and like I said, we're recording this on Sunday, and the con's still going on, so who knows? There might be things that pop up, but that's what we did get from DC. A lot of people kind of poking fun at them because the docket was small, very little going on. I think there's enough here, Shazam and Black Adam, and then you got some animated films and some TV series and stuff like that. I think people just wanted more Superman news. They wanted some Zack Snyder news. They wanted news about the Flash, which they did not get because he's MIA, like just strung out on drugs and doing crazy stuff. And I have no idea what's going on with Ezra Miller, but I don't think WB is going to work with him for too much longer. You got no Aquaman talk. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Amber Heard stuff, but I mean, we do have that whole thing kind of in the background that got ignored. So I don't know. And, you got some other characters to play with too. You got Hawkman, and you have Dr. Fate in Black Adam. Dr. Fate is like one of my favorite DC characters. He's so sick. And it's played by James Bond himself. So it should be cool. I'm actually kind of stoked about that film. I like anti-hero films, except for Venom. That movie sucked. But, I like that concept. So I think that is it for DC, and we're already hitting like almost an hour, so we should pump through Marvel.
Yeah.
You want to start off?
Why don't I start off? Yeah. So they spent a lot of time talking about just kind of the direction that they're going to be going. I mean, that's what they do with every San Diego Comic-Con for Marvel, but they talked. They talked about the X-Men '97 coming out on Netflix, and was it next year, 2023?
I don't even know. The second I heard the song on the internet, everything went black, and and then a bright light shined from above, and I heard trumpets, and was just like, oh. That's a personal thing for me. Anybody that knows me has like for like the last 10 years, even well before Fox, the whole merger and all that. Because everybody knows X-Men is Marvel. Hopefully one day they'll get them back. And I remember distinctly, I was like, one day I'm going to hear that X-Men theme. Like, I know the creator of that theme for the cartoon is kind of like iffy when it comes to sharing his work. They must have got it, but one day I'm going to hear that song in that orchestra, that MCU orchestra sound. And when that happens, like, I'm just going to lose it, Somebody snipped it together. I'm not sure if it was like an old version on the internet, which I've heard before, but I just didn't take seriously. This one sounded official. The graphics seemed official to a certain extent. I might be wrong. But I believe the song was the redone version, the orchestra version of the X-Men '97 intro song, which was super epic. So yeah, it was like one of my like giddy moments as an adult. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. The other big thing on the animation side for Marvel is the What If Season 2 is getting premiere in early 2023, and Season 3 was confirmed. So those are both good things happening. Then they talked about like the future of the MCU, which we are currently in, technically, is what did they call it? The multiverse saga. Yeah.
I think that's that's going to be what 4, 5, and 6.
Yep. So it's encapsulating phases 4, 5, and 6. And we've had some teases, like especially in Loki, and of like what's coming, and that is Kang. Mm-hmm. Let's do a quick rundown of everything just everything that's going to be in Phase 5, and some stuff for Phase 6.
Yeah, what ends Phase 4? It was Wakanda Forever, right?
Yeah, Wakanda Forever is going to end Phase 4.
Well, let's talk about Wakanda.
November.
Then. Let's talk about Wakanda real quick.
Yeah, they talked about it for almost the last probably quarter of the Marvel panel. Is just Wakanda Forever.
Yeah. It does look like it's a post Chadwick.
Yes. It's very apparent in the trailer that part of it is his funeral.
And in mourning and that type of thing. So how they're going to play it off will most likely be like the most respectful thing in cinema history, because, deservedly, like, he is Black Panther, and does so well for that character, and just the inspiration for youths and just as a comic book character being brought into that level of fandom too, just like front row and center, one of the most beloved characters. And even in like the games and stuff, like we were playing Marvel Avengers, like looks sick and stuff, it's like he belongs. So super sad, but it's going to be focusing a lot on that loss. And we saw Namor, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you have too much experience with Namor. He's more of like a tribal version of Aquaman. It's Marvel's version of Aquaman. I'm not sure of his background. I mean, you say you're a Namor fan, that's pretty deep cut. So I mean, it's it's like saying you're an Aquaman fan before the DCEU. It's like, I'm not sure about that. But with
What are you talking
Namor,
about? Aquaman on SpongeBob, man.
I mean, I'm not sure like the exact. It to me, because you do see a Black Panther in what seems to be a female frame, um, so slimmer and that type of thing, um, posturing in a fighting stance towards what looks like Namor in the background and some debris and stuff. So I'm thinking that there's going to be some type of attack from Namor on Wakanda and possibly something to do with there being no Black Panther, and it's leaving Wakanda open for a hostile takeover. That may be the premise of it, and then maybe one of like the sister or whomever takes up the mantle and becomes
It'd be
the new
great.
Black Panther.
Okoye.
Yeah, which I think it will be, to be honest.
I would be in love if that was the case.
Yeah.
She is a great character.
Yeah, and if not, I mean, all those characters in that film are like super badass too. It's like,
Oh heck yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think they can run with it. If anything, it already looks like it would be the best Black Panther movie. To be honest, it looks better than the last one for sure, and just the way that it's shot is a lot more like beautiful and cinematic and stuff like that. So I'm actually kind of stoked for it, and it sucks that Chadwick's gone and all that, but I think Marvel will do a good job at showing some respect for that. But that, like I said, that's going to be ending Phase 4, right? And we're in Phase 4 now.
Yep.
Is there anything else in Phase 4 that we have to sit through before?
I mean, She-Hulk will be technically right before that, and basically those two things are what's ending Phase 4.
So we'll talk She-Hulk. I mean, did you
Uncanny
see that
Valley Mill?
Yeah, that is strong, Uncanny Valley, and I don't know. I think it's just like maybe they had to record because of COVID in like their homes or something, but like the movement, and anybody that plays video games knows, it's like all about the lips and the eyes, and the way that the dialogue matches up with the lip movements is important. And decades of these digital artists honing in this craft, and there's just something about the fact that they're full CGI, and the way that the dialogue was being put over the voice, like it looked like the expression didn't match. You know what I mean? Which is what anybody who doesn't know. The Uncanny Valley is when you look at something, your eyes perceive it a certain way, and the less real it looks, the more it stands out, right? So like there's a perception, and the valley is in regards to like the brain processing the realism of something, and the valley itself is when something in what you're looking at is so odd, it causes a dip in your perception and how you perceive what that is real. So it's like when you see like She-Hulk talking and her lips aren't matching with the dialogue coming out, just not quite right, that's an Uncanny Valley dip, and it makes your brain kind of like freak out a little bit. And that's why Thanos was such an amazing achievement, was that the Uncanny Valley was so low with that character that you forget that he's a completely CGI character.
Well, and I think part of that is Thanos, and I mean Hulk does this really well too. They are human enough, or like human-like enough, where you can share the emotions with them, but they look not human enough where it's like, oh yeah, that's not a problem. The Uncanny Valley isn't a problem because there's that separation there. While with She-Hulk, she looks like just a large green human, and
Yes.
it's kind of like there's no overture, like huge musculature or anything like crazy other than she gets
facial
big.
expression. And that's another issue with
Yeah.
like Professor Hulk or Smart Hulk or whatever, Bruce Banner Hulk, when he's talking normal and that was my least favorite thing with Endgame, was just how that character was acting. Like I don't like seeing the Hulk with like ultra realistic facial expressions, because he is like a brooding, weird monster character, and for it to be believable, it does need to it needs to take a dive down that uncanny valley a little bit,
Yeah.
for it to be believable. And the She-Hulk, like you said, is she bulks up, which I mean, she doesn't look bad, to be honest. She looks really good. She looks like the character does in the comic books. The character is not like Hulk big. It's a buff, buff chick. She's looking like Wonder Woman in that sense. Like Wonder Woman doesn't look like a bodybuilder. She looks just like a super fit woman. Like
Yeah.
so there's a juxtaposition there, and it does make it a little bit difficult. Now, there's been different versions of the character, and the one that they're going to be focusing on is the lawyer version, which is going to have that, I have a feeling it's going to be like an Ally McBeal type of vibe. I think the reason that they're choosing this story plot too is that it introduces Daredevil, and
I mean, he's already been introduced. I mean, he was in the last Spider-Man movie, but he wasn't Daredevil. He was just the lawyer.
Yeah. Well,
I can't remember his actual name.
It's a matter of like who is where and who's doing what by this point. You got a whole different layer of the multiverse you got to worry about. Like, are we even dealing with the same ones? Like these stories can be almost identical, and they could be like, oh, these are two different worlds that are just slightly different, and you wouldn't be able to say anything about it. So Charlie Cox is returning as Daredevil. The appearance, I think he makes in a yellow and red outfit, which is comic accurate but different from what you see. You see him do a flip, you see his batons and stuff like that. So it's kind of a glamour shot. But I think their choice to go with the lawyer version of She-Hulk, which she could have always been a lawyer. I'm not sure, but I do know that there was a more recent series where she's in business attire and she's walking up the courtroom stairs and stuff like that. She's a lawyer.
Well, and we see that as like the actual human character and as the Hulk character.
Yeah, which is weird
in the
too.
trailer.
She's like, why? Like, because she's a human, or she's normal, and then she turns into the Hulk, and then so it's like, is it permanent? Like, I don't even know that in the books if it's a permanent thing.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know, but she has always been kind of the one where it's like she has human mannerisms and dialects, but she's also big and buff and stuff like that. So it was always kind of like that Professor Hulk type, where it's just a smart Hulk. So I don't know how that one's gonna hit, but me, it was like a big yikes when I saw it. I was like, ooh, don't know about this. But you do see, I forget the character's name, but Abomination.
Emil, I can't remember his last name, what the character's name is, but yeah, Abomination. That's gonna be fun.
You get a cameo from him in Shang-Chi, where he and Wong are fighting, and they're doing it. Kind of looks like for money, like it's this thing, they kind of like wobble off together. They're not angry at one another. It's kind of just like that's how he makes his money or something. So we do see him locked up, in She-Hulk, and you see him turn into Abomination, which they did add the ears, which I did see in Shang-Chi as well. But the Abomination design in the original Hulk film with Ed Norton was actually fairly accurate, aside from the fact that he didn't have the big like aquatic like fin ears or whatever, however you want to describe them. But they've got him pretty accurate, and he's massive, and you're going to have other reasons to have him included, right, in the future, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of with She-Hulk. It's kind of on the fence about that one, see where that one goes. But whatever, I'm here for it. Another issue with that one, and a lot of talk online, was the arm, Bruce's arm. If you remember, I mean, he puts on the gauntlet, he makes the wish, and snaps, and it like annihilates his arm. He's like crippled, and then you see him in Shang-Chi, I believe, in either the end of the film or in a post-credit scene where he's Bruce again, and his arm is in a sling, but it's no longer damaged, which would imply that there's a healing process going on. And then in this film, it's completely back to normal. There's not even a scar, and he's doing handstands and all this stuff. So from my understanding, I believe that damage was supposed to be permanent, so I don't know how they're going to explain it, but I do know the internet was just like, can you explain this to me? So we'll see, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah. So phase 5, it's going to start off with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. In the panel, they did talk about how King is going to play a big role as well as MODOK. Who's the other actor that's going to make an appearance in it? It's going to be a role in there.
Oh, Bill Murray.
Yeah, that's right.
Bill Murray.
That will be
Why?
interesting.
We'll see. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's gonna like kick us off into Phase 5. On Disney Plus, Secret Invasion is gonna come out, focusing on Nick Fury, Maria Hill, and most likely some scroll action. So that will be. I think that will be a fun, like like show. I think that'll be good.
Which one was that again?
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. That's what I was thinking about when we were talking about the wars, all the wars. It's Secret
Yeah.
Invasion.
Then we're gonna have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
The final.
James Gunn said it's gonna be the last Guardians of the Galaxy, but he said that it's Guardians of the Galaxy is coming to an end, but that doesn't mean all the characters are dying. So
Yeah.
that's gonna give some.
Not
Hopefully,
all
we'll see them.
the characters are dying, by the way.
Yeah.
A little bit of speculation on the internet due to an image of that trailer or what have you, or picture, where Rocket is not shown. You got the entire team, but Rocket is gone. So whether that implies that Rocket dies, I'm not sure. I don't think it's necessary for them to kill off any characters, to be honest. They don't need to do that.
They did say it was going to focus a lot on Rocket, and they're going to have like some flashbacks of Rocket's origin story. So that will be interesting. But then they're going to have Adam Warlock and the High Evolutionary be playing key roles as well in the film. So that will be fun.
Super powerful character.
Yeah.
Should have been. I mean, he made a brief appearance inside that chamber at the end of Guardians
Volume 2. Yeah.
So he's been
pissed off the gold ladies.
Yeah. Those are like the funniest characters.
Yep. Anyway, so that'll be fun. Then we have Echo Disney Plus show, Loki Disney Plus show. We'll have the movies, The Marvels, and Blade.
To go back, Echo is the character from, I don't know, I have to look, but Echo is the character that's being brought back. Supposed to be getting her own show, but instead it's basically just going to be propping up Kingpin and more Daredevil. I forget now. I'm having a hard time even remembering where that character is from.
No, that was from the Hawkeye show.
Hawkeye, there we go. 'Cause at the end of the show, you get Kingpin come out, and then presumably somebody dies, but neither die because we know that Kingpin's making an appearance, and she's getting her show, so something happens.
Yep.
But that's what that character is.
Yep. Anyways, Loki season 2. I think that was going to be fun, and I think that's really also going to explore what's going on with all of the Kangs going on, and
it has to. They have to. Like,
well, especially from where they left off, where like what was it? What was that place called?
Oh, the time.
The Time Variance Authority, the TVA.
Yeah, the TVA. Yeah,
I mean, that turned into like a saint or like a temple for Kang.
Yeah, well,
and
I mean, he was the original creator of it to begin with, right? I mean, that's how they ended up there. He was always responsible, but now you get this. You get Kang the Conqueror up there.
Yeah.
The worst of the versions of Kang, and what he was referring to is Kang the Conqueror is a big baddie. We're talking Thanos level bad.
Yep.
Which is why I said they have to, because you need all the time you can get to establish a character like that. And then with them throwing in, we're jumping a little bit, but Secret Wars and stuff like that, it's like, oh, you guys are throwing in a lot. You know.
So, anyways, with is it Justin Majors or what's his first name?
I forget.
I think it's Justin Majors, the guy that plays Kang, and he did say, like, there was a quote of him saying on stage that there will be some conquering. So, I mean, that was some foreshadowing there. But anyways, then we're going to have the Marvels, which is going to have Carol Danvers, Kamala Khan, and Carol Danvers' friend. I can't remember her name, but that's what it's going to be focusing on. So
yeah, you got the character from Wanda, right? Or from WandaVision. She's one of the Marvels.
Yeah, and that I think that's one of that Carol Danvers' friend.
Yeah. Well, I thought that.
No,
I got mixed up because you got Photon, right? You got Photon, who was or Photon. When in Captain Marvel, when they hop in their cockpits and she gives a thumbs up to the other fighter pilot, from what I understand, that is supposed to be like Photon, another character. I'm not sure if okay. So I got really confused when I saw Multiverse of Madness, because I think that was supposed to be the Captain Marvel that was up there. But I thought that the chick that showed up in WandaVision was her, and that's how she got her powers. But now I'm like completely confused at who's who, and that's another thing. I'm just getting old, man. Remembering names is hard. So
Yeah.
like I'm
So
just kind of confused at who's who and who's gonna be what and that type of thing.
yeah, but we'll have Blade. We'll have Ironheart. I know you're not a fan of Ironheart.
Yeah, I mean the Ironheart thing. I mean anybody, it's a completely irrational distaste for that. But really,
Yeah.
it's a matter of the fact that Iron Man 3 and then even Endgame is propping up Iron Lad, and then randomly they decide to make the next Iron Man-esque film based on a character that you haven't been exposed to yet.
Yeah. Well, and Ironheart's gonna be a Disney Plus show, so it's not gonna be
Yeah, which you do
that
see
big.
her make an appearance in the Wakanda Forever trailer.
Yeah.
Somewhat similar to Tony's scene in the Afghani caves where he's pounding the metal and forging his suit and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I don't know much about Ironheart character, so I have an open mind to it, but I'm not hoping for anything.
I mean, all these
Um,
characters are basically the same.
Yeah.
Old character they can't use anymore, so they find a reason to have a young character admire that character and then take on the mantle. Like that's the age-old tale. The minor details vary, but it's always the same. And
Yeah.
to me, kind of comes off just as unoriginal.
Well, yeah. Member berries, whatever.
Make money.
Next Disney Plus show up is Agatha Coven of Chaos. And I know, we'll have Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. So they blatantly said that it's going to be like Kingpin versus Daredevil. So
Yeah.
that'll be fun.
Does Agatha deserve a show?
I know a lot of people are clamoring for it. I don't care enough for that.
I mean, she's one of the best characters. Yeah, like acting
Yeah.
wise, fun, like fits well, understood the assignment, delivered. But a show, like I just see that as wasted resources.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we talked about this earlier. How that slot could have been used, or even Ironheart could have been used for an X-Men show or something else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, if it's going to be strengthening the Wanda or the Scarlet Witch story, because like we discussed in our Marvel catch up, was that Agatha is supposed to be the mentor of the Scarlet Witch and teaching her the runes and the spells and the power and stuff like that. And they've kind of reworked it. So whether or not that's going to be kind of a retcon on how Agatha is involved with them or with her, I'm not sure, but I can maybe see it. But again, I mean, we got a lot of Scarlet Witch, and there wasn't an announcement on a Scarlet Witch film, but there are some open slots to be announced at D23, and we might get a Scarlet Witch movie, which would be dope. I mean, Mom was essentially a Scarlet Witch film to begin with, and it was super good to me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least what my hope is for D23, I hope they announce Deadpool 3 and an X-Men movie. I think that would be the appropriate way to go, but that's just me.
I'm thinking San Diego Comic-Con would have been the best place to announce a Deadpool movie. I don't think D23
Yeah.
would be the best place. You're like, so our first rated R film.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyways, then the last bit to round out Phase 5, or at least for what they have announced for Phase 5, is Captain America New World Order, and that's going to be Falcon as Captain America, so that will be interesting. Then the movie Thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm. Now, taking into consideration that Sam's, I think 3 or 4 years was the full run of that Sam character as Captain America. So, what I would like to see them do is to ditch the wings, maybe get like a jetpack, like kind of like Captain Britain had, something akin to that, and then get him into a more fresh, basic Captain America outfit, and just have him be Captain America. You know what I mean? Like, I'm totally fine with it. I just don't like the way he looks. The thing is that he looks exactly like the character looks in the comic book, so I can't. I'm like pinned down in how I can complain about it because
Yeah.
I'm getting what you're supposed to get, but I don't want it. So
Yeah, I mean, with Thunderbolts, I think that's going to be fun. And we're going to have,
yeah,
we're for sure going to have U.S. Agent. We're probably going to have Abomination, and I
we'll
mean,
have,
there's been some hints of other characters. So
the one I see predominantly would be Baron Zemo.
oh yeah,
One of my
then
favorite villains in MCU, by the way. I
he's
mentioned that
great.
in our MCU catch up. I like your Lex Luthor type villains, the smart ones.
Yep. Then
But hey, let's not pass over Thunderbolts. How you gonna do that when the actor Thunderbolt Ross has passed away in this last year? After a decade and a half, they finally decide to make a Thunderbolts film. Which, I mean, I don't know the full rundown of the Thunderbolts, but that is named after a crew that Thunderbolt Ross puts together and runs as the Red Hulk. If I'm not mistaken, he is the Red Hulk, which we've never got exposed to. So
yeah, I don't know. They might play it off as though he died. We're naming it after him, type of thing.
true, but him.
We'll see. There's a lot of content in between here and there.
Mm-hmm. Well, going down here, I got some dates too. So Agatha is winter 2023. Blade, no trailer, but that's November 3rd, 2023. So this year or
Next year.
Next year. Thunderbolts is July 26th, 2024. Captain America, NWO is May 3rd, 2024. These are all subject to change and will most likely change anyways, but you got Loki next summer. And what about Armor Wars? There was no information.
Yeah,
on
no
Armor
mention.
Wars.
No mention of it, but it's still on Disney Plus's official webpage, so
Mm-hmm.
it has to be still in development. It's just I don't know if they have changed the positioning or maybe they're
Yeah.
rewriting it. Who knows?
Well, and you got the writer too. He's like, I assure you, it's being made. So it's probably going to be one of the slots on the 8 missing because the Phase 6. We'll get into it. I mean, obviously, there's not much to talk about Phase 6, but Phase 6 is 3 properties and then 8 unmentioned properties that they're most likely going to announce at D23. I don't know when D23 is, but sometimes this
September.
year. In September, so not too far. But Armor Wars is a Rhodey-centric storyline that kind of takes place around that character's War Machine and probably the military and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting. I'm just not a big Don Cheadle fan. I mean, this is my own personal opinion, but it's kind of droll, just kind of whatever in his roles, and line delivery is a little stale with Don Cheadle, but. If he can pull it through and make the character a little more likable. They did it with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Those characters came out at the end a lot more likable. So hopefully they do that with Rhodey because he's been around for 15 years, 12 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, no release date on that. Nothing announced. Disney site, like you said, does say it's coming, and the writer assures people, so it will probably take up one of those slots.
Yep. Well, then in Phase 6, we have announced Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And
Did we talk about Daredevil Born Again?
Yeah, we did.
Well, to emphasize that there's been a shift in Disney Plus. Right? It's typically people have been complaining about these 6 and 8 episode runtimes on these series, limited series or shows or what have you. 18 episode series for Daredevil Born Again. It will feature Charlie Cox. He's coming back to reprise his role, and that does come out in spring 2024.
Nice.
Then you said Phase 6.
Yep, Phase 6, we have Fantastic Four, which I think is going to be really great. It'll be interesting to see who they get for each character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love it if... what's the guy that they had play Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness?
Oh, I thought you were going to say the original.
No. John Krasinski.
Yeah, I kept thinking the last name. Yeah, John Krasinski.
I would
and then
love
his
it
wife,
if they had him.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
Emily
I
Blunt?
I would love it if he was there. But I don't know what they're gonna do for the 616. That could be.
Well, something that they did announce when it came to, I believe, What If or what have you. One of the people involved did confirm that the Captain Britain that you see in the Illuminati is not the same that you see in the What If. So you already have 2 nearly identical characters living in 2 separate multiverses. So they could easily bring back Krasinski and have him play just a different, I'm not going to get into details. Everybody knows how
Yeah.
the multiverse works, but you know what I mean. Like just a different version of him that's
Yeah.
not attached to that storyline in Mom.
Yeah. Well, and I just love him as an actor. He's great.
Yeah.
For everything from The Office, then he did a Tom Clancy series on Amazon. I think he's
Oh,
still
Reacher.
doing that.
Is it Reacher?
I can't remember,
I
but
think it
I
is.
really liked him in that. Oh, it was Jack Ryan. Anyways, I really like him as an actor. I think he'd be a good fit. But I mean, there's so many people that they could make fit in that role. So
I mean,
we'll
the way
see.
he was talking in the way he was delivering that role in Mom was very clean. You know, like
Yes.
he was there. He was present. He was acting. The facial expressions were there. He wasn't just phoning it in. You know. So hey,
Yeah.
give it to him. I'm all for it.
Yep.
Um,
Then we have two new Avengers movies.
mhm.
So these are going to be the first actual Avenger movies since Endgame and Infinity War, and they're going to be Avengers King Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars coming out in 2025.
Mhm.
Both of them.
And that'll be the round out to the multiverse saga, which I mean, the first one you had the Infinity Saga, right? I'm more familiar with like House of M and other variations like Phoenix Saga with X-Men and stuff like that. I never really got into Secret Wars. I do know that it has a lot to do with the scroll,
Yeah.
but at the very least, you do have a storyline that fits with Fantastic Four, kind of being shoehorned in there, nice and easy, you know. So I could see it, you know. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like I said, with everything else that's going on, that's a lot of stuff to cram into like one era, you know. And if one of those things pops up as X-Men, I mean, God, that is so much. That is so much content for fans to be expected to consume in a fairly short period of time, 3 years or something like that, 2 years. So
I mean, people will do it.
I'll
I will
but,
do it.
I mean, I'm having a hard time remembering stuff now. I can only imagine how it'll be in 2025.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one thing I forgot to mention. I mean, we're pretty much done with these phases. That's pretty much it for phase 6. Like I said, there's 8 spots I think that were left up there empty for D23 for them to announce, and those are probably going to be the ones that everybody wants. And I'm hoping that X-Men's on there, and I'm hoping that a standalone Scarlet Witch is on there as well. And maybe even like a Wolverine film. That would freak people out, you know. Like maybe the X-Men are a thing, and then Wolverine comes in his own film and comes in later. Who knows? I don't know. But one thing I realized when watching this and seeing kind of everything play out with Marvel and what they're releasing and the stories they're choosing to talk about and stuff like that. It made me realize that I was not a very big fan of the Avengers prior to the MCU, much like a lot of people. You know, you had your exposure via video games, yeah, comic runs, obviously, but those were kind of like the whatever comics. But you have like so much hype built up around these characters that you weren't necessarily huge fans of, that they just made you into fans, right? And I became like a huge fan of the Avengers, but I distinctly remember growing up like an X-Men kid. You know, and just like hearing that X-Men song just like reminded me, it's like I was like, oh, I don't have to worry because, you know, like, yeah, the Avengers are gone and I don't like the way that they're kind of bringing in new characters right now, but hopefully the X-Men will still be X-Men, and I like the X-Men more than I like the Avengers. So maybe the next 10 years will be nice, you know. Maybe it'll be 20 years of X-Men and stuff. So I'm really hoping for the X-Men to come through, and you know, some people might kind of revolt at the idea of having like a really MCU heavy X-Men, but like me, it's like what I live for. I can't wait for it because as of right now, my interest in the MCU is slipping. My interest in consuming what they're releasing has slipped like completely. I have to like muster up the interest to watch like Miss Marvel, you know, like getting a little bit bored with like Moon Knight, you know, like I don't really have an interest in watching any of like the Daredevil stuff if it starts getting dropped, but maybe I will, you know. Like it's hard, you know. When it was Captain America, it's like I wanted to see the Captain America films, you know. It's when it was Thor, it's like, yeah, might not be a huge fan, but like these are epic films, and you know, make a comparison to like other properties and stuff, but it really feels like Marvel is starting to lose the original drive and motivation to bring comics into like a real experience, rather than Now they already have that established, and now they're just kind of using it and keeping the wheels rolling on it, and it just feels a little bit less genuine and like raw, because as time goes on, I told you, it's like the more I appreciate the Infinity Saga as a whole, as a masterpiece of comic book storytelling in film form is so just next level compared to, I mean, even what we're looking at now. The last, like, phase 5 and phase 6 going to have to hit really hard because phase 4 kind of sucked. It's not
Well,
good.
and I think Phase 4 is all setting up things that's going to play key roles in Phase 5 and 6.
I mean, the phase 1 was Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, First Avenger,
Yeah,
Avengers.
the
Like,
key
it
characters
was
of
hit. Everything was a hit. It was like everything was good. But now
yeah,
it's like you got like characters like, well, we're gonna give you Kamala Khan, but we're gonna change some things because we don't want it to conflict with other things, and then we're gonna give you an Agatha TV show because we want to give you some more information on Scarlet Witch, but we don't want to pay Elizabeth Olsen X amount of millions of dollars to make another series, so we're gonna give you a little bit of that, and we know you like Iron Lad, and you don't really expect Iron Man to pop back up on the stream, but we kind of want to go with Iron Heart instead, and we're gonna just favor that because it's a little bit better to have a little bit more variety, and so it's like, okay. Like, all right, that's not how it was when you were looking at like phase 1. It was just like okay, comic fans, here's what you've wanted, here are comic books on screen, and it's just starting to lose that feel. I'm not saying that what they're releasing is like bad or low quality or what have you, but it doesn't feel as genuine.
well, I think part of it, I definitely understand where you're coming from, but I think part of it is just the sheer amount of material that they're pumping out. They have movies that are coming out at almost the same rate as they did initially. However, they have all the Disney Plus stuff coming out in addition too. So it's just a lot of content, and it might be content overload.
Yeah,
That's a real thing.
yeah. I don't know. It's just the genuine nature of it. It feels like there's starting to be more. It's almost like they felt restrained the first 3 phases, and that they had to like keep it tight. They had to run the ship really tight and to make sure that the comic book fans were going to be pleased. But after 10 years of doing that, now they want to kind of explore and kind of use the medium to have a different, I don't want to say agenda because that makes it sound like conspiratorial, but you know what I mean. Like they're not picking the best directors, they're not picking the best writers anymore. Some of the actors aren't really the best actors for the part. A couple of them are really good though, but they're slipping a little bit. They're getting, I don't want to say lazy, but they're just not. They don't come off as confident as they were, or they come off as like overly confident, and
Yeah,
it's
I
starting to thread that needle a little bit.
I see where you're coming from. All right, so let's wrap this up.
All right. So yeah, I mean that is phase 6. You got the Fantastic Four, which we already know about, Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, and then Secret Wars that comes out. I think there's like a 4 or 5 month difference, 3 or 4 month difference, or something like that, right?
It's May to November.
May to November. So yeah, some time to let it sit. Less than Infinity War and Endgame, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was almost a year. I might be wrong.
Yeah, no, you're making me question my memory now. I think it was 6 months to a year.
Okay.
But regardless,
they're amping it up, and they're definitely delivering more and a lot faster and stuff like that. So
yeah,
regardless, I want to make it seem like we're not grateful. There's a whole lot of juicy stuff here and years of content that we'll enjoy. Definitely will keep content coming through the podcast for sure. But kind of a letdown for DC. I feel bad for the fans who wanted more. I feel kind of bad for the people that got their expectations high with certain things and got let down.
I don't feel bad.
I mean, I don't feel bad to a certain extent either. However,
I don't
you
feel
got
bad at
people
all.
that like wholesomely enjoy it, and that they're not aggressive and toxic, and they just don't like being like messed around with, and they're getting messed around with by Twitter and trolls.
And
and
that's
stuff like
by people that are aggressive and
that. Mm-hmm.
toxic about it. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, it literally is what it is. That is just Twitter and Reddit, and that's just how you have to deal with it. And sorting through this information was a lot more difficult than it really needed to be. just because of all those trolls out there releasing fake information, just because it would be funny for an hour. But I think as nerds, we should rejoice. The San Diego Comic Con is back. COVID definitely affected it. The floor looked packed. I wrote a little article about my experiences at Comic Con growing up. And the way that this show goes, this show completely falls within the confines, the requirements to acquire press passes for all 5 days of the convention. So who knows? Maybe if the show and the blog grows over time, maybe in some of the upcoming years we can acquire ourselves some press passes and get on down to Comic-Con to report on it from the show floor. That'd be super nice. We'll see. But as of right now, we got to report on it from a remote location up here in Washington, and have to sort through all the trolls and false information and stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I hope you guys followed along with the con over the weekend and saw all the juicy pictures and stuff like that. You can check out our Twitter. I've been retweeting and commenting on anything and everything I could find that I think people would like. That is something that people should keep in mind. I mean, we have all our social medias, which is the Nerd Chatter Show, for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. But if you're looking for a nice feed of news for anything nerdy, whether it be tech or movies or video games or what have you, artwork, follow us on Twitter, because we'll keep that feed kind of going. And this week has just been overwhelming with the amount of stuff. So head on over there, give us a follow, check out our YouTube channel, which you may be listening to here, in which case any links that you need would be below. We're going to kind of skimp on the links for a lot of the stuff that we reported, because there's like 100 things here and it would just be absurd. But check out our Twitter. You'll see everything that we reported on, because we kind of just pulled it from our feed. Also, we have a Patreon. We do some recordings of extra content, things like that. You can always hop on there, check it out. If you're interested in joining the community and helping us out, you can always join by checking out our Patreon. Just go ahead and search Nerd Chatter over there, or click the link down in the description below. And you can find the Nerd Chatter podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, whether it be Spotify or iTunes or Google or what have you. Check us out there. Give us a follow. And we appreciate your support and listening. Garrett, thank you very much for being here.
It's always my pleasure.
Yeah, we got a lot of juicy stuff this week. We'll kind of see how we fare next week with the drought. I'm sure there's going to be a drought of information. We may harken back to this week and kind of cover some things that may be announced today, or some things that we kind of brushed over or didn't get to in this show. But we'll roll with it. We'll see where we're at. So again, we appreciate you. Check out our social media. Give us a follow over here on Twitter and on YouTube. And we'll catch you next week. Take it easy, guys.